Today, with Vasoulla Constantinou, we're here to talk about what are the first steps of the divorce process and what is a good divorce. We're here to give you tips on how to choose a family lawyer, what are the first steps of the divorce process, and we will touch upon how to deal with the holidays when you're about to separate and maybe you're going to have two different holidays with your children and holidays without your children. So how to cope with that. Vas is with me today. We've done already a podcast together on co-parenting, and you're more than welcome to listen to it on #divorce, the podcast. But today it's a webinar I'm doing with Vas, and I'm really, really pleased to be here with her and do this first webinar together. Vas, will you please introduce yourself in a few words before we start, please?
Yes. Hi. Hello, Audrey. Thank you for the introduction. As you say, it's always great collaborating with you. It was great fun doing the podcast with you a few months ago. So yeah, really excited to be invited by you to do this webinar. I think it's a great topic to cover at this time, particularly Christmas looming and only around the corner. And I think it's just to add as well, whilst it's important dealing with the holiday season regarding child arrangements, but I think it's also great to sort of focus maybe just for a little bit of time on just people dealing with handling Christmas in a potential separation and their own. It may not involve children, but also if you're separating from partner, spouse, how to actually cope with that, because that can be quite a daunting prospect in itself. But just to introduce myself, I'm Vasoulla Constantinou. I'm a family law solicitor. I have been practicing family law for over 20 years now. I am a partner of a firm called Tyrer Roxbourg Solicitors. We're based in North London, close to Alexandra Palace. I've been dealing with family law matters ranging from divorce and financial matters all the way to child arrangements. I'm very passionate about my job. It's very satisfying helping people at a time which can be quite stressful. And my passion is just to approach on a personal level. It's important to understand that this is a time in somebody's life that they don't only need legal advice, but they require compassion and understanding. But that's the whole point of this webinar, and hopefully we can shed some light and some comfort to many people who are listening today.
Yes, thank you, Vas, for exactly that's what the goal and the aim of this podcast is, to reassure, give you some first steps for you to take action, but also how to cope with maybe your first holiday without your children, and how to deal with the emotion behind it and all the fears or any other feelings you may have. I'm the divorce coach, so I will probably handle that side and give you some tips, and Vas will give you tips around, though she's a very compassionate lawyer, and we're going to talk about how to choose your lawyer and what to look for in a lawyer, and what would you need in a lawyer as well, which is very important step in getting a good divorce. So shall we start, Vas? Maybe
Absolutely.
with the first point, how to choose a family lawyer. Would it be the first thing to think about, you think?
Definitely. I think it's really important that that you choose a lawyer who you connect with. I think rapport is so important, and that's what I really focus on, understanding that every client's needs are different and everybody's circumstances are different. And it's so important that you find a lawyer who engages with you and listens to you and understands what you're looking for. At the same time, it's really important that you also listen to your lawyer as well, because whilst you may have lots of issues that need dealing with, there is a legal process, and sometimes it may feel unfair and unreasonable, but that's not in the hands of your lawyer. That's unfortunately the process, and that's, it's important to find somebody who can manage those expectations, but at the same time understand you and find a way, if possible, to meet your needs.
So trust and rapport are really the main aspect to look for when you first talk to a lawyer. If you trust your lawyer, as you say, you will follow the guidelines, you will follow his or her advice, and you will feel in good hands to follow the procedure. And
absolutely, I think trust is the key thing. It's essential. If you don't trust your lawyer, then they're not the right lawyer for you, and you need to just move on if you can to somebody who you feel connected with. It's important to feel that connection, because you're not just dealing with a commercial transaction here, whilst financial proceedings can be quite commercial because you're dealing with assets, how it's going to be divided in a fair and reasonable way. But at the same time, these type of proceedings, they are handling emotions, they're handling a very, very tricky time. So that trust and compassion, I think, are key for me. Otherwise, it won't work.
And do you think of any other questions that the person should ask herself on what lawyer would fit with her needs? Are there any other aspects to look at for?
I think you need to go there. You need to go to your initial consultation. So what I offer my clients is an initial consultation and a fixed price. So there's no pressure with regards to funding the legal advice. It's just a fixed fee, cheap and cheerful initial consultation, and it offers that opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with your lawyer. Go there, and basically whatever's inside you, whatever questions you have, just get them out on the table. And I always say no question's a silly question. You know, it's just important, even if it's just to verbalize it and get it off your chest. It's really important that you're able to do that. So I think it's really important to have that initial consultation, have that heart-to-heart, sit down, tell your solicitor, exactly what's been going on, what your troubles and concerns are. And your solicitor should, in that meeting, be able to give you that. It's never going to be in depth, that first meeting, but in that 1 hour or so, they'll be able to summarize the legal process, which can be very daunting. And I think that's the biggest concern of many people. What are they going to be faced with? Will they go to court? Will it be done amicably? Will you handle it in an aggressive way? And there are people who want that aggression as well. So it's just listening to your client, hearing what they want. But at the same time, the reciprocation, listening to the advice, and a good solicitor should be able to advise you on what's in your best interests. Sometimes it may be something you don't want to hear, but it's how you present that to your client. And ultimately, if you listen to the right advice, it should be quite a straightforward and straightforward process, one would hope. Yes.
That's the goal, and that's why I really enjoy working with you, Vas, because you are promoting the best help for your clients so that they have a smooth process, and that if possible they avoid going to court or they avoid contentious divorce. And with the
that's right. Yeah, but I mean, I think that likewise, Audrey, that's why I enjoy working with you as well. And I think it's brilliant collaborating with a divorce coach, because I think it's such a perfect fit, in that sometimes you can't, you have all the best will in the world. If your opponent is aggressive and unreasonable and nasty, then whatever you do to keep it amicable, to keep it reasonable, this is where I think it's great collaborating with you, because you assist in how to manage that. And sometimes it's not about retaliation. It's not about cutting your nose off to spite your face, which is very understandable and very easy to do, because if you're greeted with animosity, aggression, and contention, then it's natural to want to bite back, which is not necessarily always the best way to react. That you offer that guidance to clients on how to manage that, how to view it from a different perspective. So I think great collaboration with you, Audrey.
Thank you, Vas. Yeah, it's so true that it's how you react to the situation. That's how I help as well, because you can't always react, as you say, by conflict with conflict. Then when do you end it? How can it end? And at the end, how do you want your divorce to look like? How fast do you want your divorce to be over? And all these things, maybe what is really important to you matters more than winning on an argument. So it's about really understanding what really are your best interests in the long run, and not just during that very difficult time of your life where, yes, your emotions are all over the place. And that's why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to assist that, and so that you don't make harsh decisions as well. Because often we are blurred with emotions and we make the wrong decisions or harsh decisions, very hasty decisions. So it's about dealing with these emotions so that you can make the best decisions possible, knowing everything you need to know and understanding the impact of those decisions in the future as much as we can tell and plan. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Audrey, what you've said, because sometimes it's important to cherry pick the battle that you're going to fight. So, it's not winning the battles, it's winning the war. So, I've encountered over the years, so you can imagine, I've encountered many situations where clients will fight and fight and fight on a point, and you're saying, just don't focus your energy because it's a personal issue. I said, and you spend so much money on legal costs and toing and froing in correspondence because it's such an emotional and raw topic, which is understandable. And I think that's what's important with finding the right solicitor, is that not being judgmental, understanding, yes, I can see why you want to fight, that I can see the unfairness, I can see the unreasonableness from your ex-partner, spouse, whoever they are. However, do you want to prolong this process? And this is what you said, how do you want your divorce to look like? And how quickly do you want this to be nipped in the bud and allow you to focus and move on and enjoy your life rather than being wrapped up in this conflict?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to lose a battle but win a war.
Yes, that's so true. So you really want to start recover from the divorce, and you can't do that if you're right in the middle of it and in conflict. So it's really hard to free your mind and to be available to understand what do you want now of your life, how do you want your life to look like, and what do you want to put in it. It's really difficult to do that if you're wrapped up in revenge and conflict. So
don't get me
yes,
wrong, there are areas that, yes, if you need to fight for it, and then absolutely,
exactly,
but it goes back to being fair and reasonable, and also having an experienced solicitor on board. They'll be able to advise you whether it's a worthwhile argument, whether a court would be in your favor or not. So it may seem unfair at times, but if it's a fair point, then of course there's nothing wrong with being like a dog with a bone. And if it's a reasonable argument to fight, then of course you need to do it. And again, perhaps you could step in and help with giving people the strength to fight that argument, because there is that flip side as well. There are many people out there who don't have the energy, or they may be going through depression, they may be down in the dumps, and they haven't got that strength and that energy to stand up and fight for themselves. So there is that as well, that, collaborating with a great divorce coach, a really good solicitor, having that, given that energy and that strength to fight for your rights and get a fair settlement at the end of this.
Yes.
Agreement.
Yes, I really like it. It's really important. Of course, you can't let go of everything, and
no.
battles are worth fighting for, definitely.
No. You can't roll over and accept everything. No. But there are many, and I'm sure you've encountered many people who they've come out of an abusive relationship or controlling. Obviously, that's an element of abuse. And they just don't have the energy. They just want for everything to be done and dusted. And then you're 1 or 2 years later, they may be in a better place and come back and say, I wish I had that energy, that strength to fight harder. But it's too late. Once it's over, it's over.
And it's your role to say that's what you are entitled to. That's what you can fight for. And that's so important that the person knows. And of course, with a divorce coach, it's what do I really want, and how do I want my life to look like after the divorce? Because there are things you can fight for now, and it's good to know about them, that you are entitled to fight for them. So it's really a balance, isn't it?
It is. And it goes back to what we said from at the beginning, Audrey, that it's finding that right fit with your solicitor who understands you, and is able to manage your expectations and fight for you and get what you want as best as possible, but at the same time manage those unreasonable, actually I won't say unreasonable, because nothing is ever unreasonable. When you're walking into this particularly for the first time, you're entitled to ask and to find out, and you're oblivious. Many people are oblivious to this entire process. So you need to be free. You need to be free to speak from your heart, ask any questions that you want, but at the same time listen. And between you, if you've got that good rapport, that trust in your solicitor, then it should be a fantastic working relationship.
So that would be the first steps, really, is choosing your solicitor. Let's say you're planning your divorce, you're thinking, how can I get through Christmas? Or we're going to see that later. And then in January, I'm going to start calling someone, or that would be the first step. What else when you say, that's it, we're separating, we're going to live in two different houses, but we haven't started the divorce process? What other steps should they take now, or as soon as they start the procedure? Or
so I just think it's important to move at your own pace as well. So going back to listening to your solicitor, you should never have a solicitor that says to you, do it now, do it now, do it now. It's very personal. You need to take that step when you're ready. But at the same time, it's important not to procrastinate, because once you've taken that step, it can be quite liberating on the other side. This new divorce laws come out now, which makes the entire process for divorce proceedings much easier, more amicable, cut out all the acrimony and the antagonistic approach that the old law often caused. There's no requirement to place blame, as it was the case prior to April of this year. So now it's no fault. It's just a straightforward application that's done online, which enables people to focus more on dealing with their finances. And I think, just touching briefly on the process as well, I think that the problem with the old law is that the divorce process could be so acrimonious, because if you had to attach blame, that was the only way to progress the divorce forward. That jaded the approach in the financial proceedings, because if you started off on an acrimonious step, then that will naturally TP over to the financial proceedings. So what's brilliant about this process now is it's a very mechanical process. It's no fault. You go in, just say, want to get divorced, no reasons. It's just a decision that we have made. You can do a joint application, a sole application, and then you start the financial proceedings on a fresh foot. So there's no blame attached, there's no nasty feelings lingering in the background. So it's worthwhile starting the divorce to begin with as soon as possible, because if you do reach an agreement in the financial proceedings, it may take 20 weeks from when you start the divorce before you can finalize any agreed financial settlement. I think that's the important thing to get through to people today. You basically start the divorce, you have 20 weeks to make an application for your conditional order, which is what used to be called the decree nisi. It's now a conditional order. So if in the meantime, if you reach an amicable settlement, that cannot be submitted to the court and finalized until you have your conditional order. So there's a 20-week gap there. So the sooner you start, potentially the sooner you can reach an amicable settlement as well. And it's not as daunting as it used to be. It's quite a straightforward process. So to summarize, have that initial consultation with your solicitor, get that report, get the right person on board, and then when you're ready, you can just make a start with applying for the divorce. And like I said before, it can be quite a liberating process.
Yes, starting it is the main thing when you're ready as well. So no pushing. Yes, as you mentioned, have that first conversation with your lawyer, your solicitor, and then when you're ready. But it takes 20 weeks to So yeah, it's about knowing that once you start the process, maybe you'll feel more relieved or, you know, lighter, because at least it's on the way. Yes, and the first step, I mean, for me as a divorce coach, what I see is people who have decided, but who need to announce it to their children, who are looking for a place to live. Maybe they haven't started the divorce process yet, but they're at this stage of announcing or looking for a place or just moving out, and it's dealing with all these emotions, maybe guilt if they've initiated the divorce. It's a massive feeling I'm getting from you know, the client I coach, and many women feel that guilt. But men too. There's no, you know, it's whoever has initiated the divorce feel that guilt, I think. And the other one who's hurt may emphasize or may guilt trip their partner as well. It's really important to understand that why you're getting the divorce is not just one person's fault or the other. It's really the couple, unless there was violence and, as you mentioned, and abuse. But if it's often responsibility is shared in some ways, you know, it could be, and it's about understanding why are you getting divorced, remembering yourself why you're doing that, when you feel the guilt or when you feel emotion maybe around your children, and then you can really understand how to move forward and how to make those decisions about, you know, finding a place, maybe your first Christmas without your children, and all of that will follow. So it's about really understanding what's important for you to start with, and what emotions you want to feel, and how to deal with all these negative aspects of the divorce.
I think, you know, you've picked up on the point of Christmas, Audrey, and this is, in my years of practice, such a difficult time of year for many people, whether it be your first experience or first time, the concept of not spending Christmas with your children, or if you don't have children, first time just being, in inverted commas, alone. And being alone sometimes may not be a bad thing when you've suffered for several years or for months, however long. But still, that concept can be quite daunting. And it's just the run up to Christmas, in my experience, we get an influx of inquiries. Who's going to have the children for Christmas? Boxing Day isn't Christmas. If you're going to I've had Christmas, there's just this focus on Christmas Day. Everybody wants the 25th of December. And quite often I say to people, it doesn't have to be 25th of December. You can still have Christmas Day on the 26th, 27th, 28th. It's a day. And whether it's on the 25th or another day. But again, it's that mentality. We are brought up in a society where there's so much focus on that one day on the 25th of December, and just shifting, which you're great at doing, in helping people to shift their thoughts and focus on that one day perhaps, and know that these children are going to have 2 Christmas days, which is great. I know I would have loved 2 Christmas days.
I would have loved that.
Yeah. So it's managing those emotions and getting through. The first Christmas is always the hardest. I'm sure you'll be able to.
Yes, I had that as well. Yes, yeah, without my kids, it's been very emotional, very hard. Especially I couldn't see my family that Christmas. I think I spent some Christmas alone. But yes, it is really hard. But it's about, I think, it's about putting your child or children first, isn't it? Yeah. And what memories do you want them to have around Christmas, around these holidays? Does it really matter that they see you, as you said, the 25th or the 26th, as long as they had a great Christmas day with their mom and dad, and then they're going to have another great day with you? That's really what matters. Yeah, the memories you're going to create for them, reassure them that they still have that. They still have those happy days, happy moments, not with mom and dad together, but still they will have peace, reassurance, and enjoy. So yes, I think it's important to put them first and not think in terms of numbers. Often during holidays, we want to do 50-50. I see that's so many times, but really it's about respecting the children, especially if you're in two different locations, or respecting the children's schedule. Sometimes it's hard to have the exact same number of days for many reasons. I think quality time and thinking about your child, which is so difficult to do, because you want to have them with you. You want to share that day with them.
Yeah.
But I think the adult has to kind of take the responsibility and say, for my children, yes, it is going to feel a bit lonely, and I'm going to try to give you tips to feel less lonely on that day or during those holidays if you don't have your children. There are things you can do, and but yes, first put your children first, I think, and remember what. Yeah.
You don't want to burden them. This is meant to be a happy time for them, and whatever you say, they're going to be upset that their parents are not together on Christmas Day. So that's already a negative impact on them. But to also, going back again to my experience, how many times I've had to submit urgent applications just before Christmas to define when the children will be, what times they'll be spending with each parent. And it's just so sad. It's so sad that you should be focusing on going and doing fun things and baking Christmas puddings or whatever, and instead of that, there's court hearings just to define the time, and that's very burdensome on children when they're already managing having to spend Christmas without both parents there. So, but at the same time, it should point out that there are things, if you can't reach an agreement, there are applications to the court that can be made, and hopefully will resolve any disputes. But that should be the last resort. And I think the court can get quite cross as well with parents who just fail to try and reach a harmonious and amicable arrangement for their children, because that should be what's at the forefront of every parent's mind. And putting our needs to the side, that's what as parents we have to do, don't we? We have to put our needs aside and just focus on making the children happy, particularly a time like this.
Yes, exactly. It's about being flexible, isn't it? And not applying general rule. I feel like sometimes we tend to, that's how it should be, versus how it's better for us to be, for our family or for the children. There's no rule, and it's about adapting to your personal situation, first of all. I find if you have your children alone, because it can be quite hard as well to feel like there's no more in the family. Maybe I like the idea of creating new habits or new traditions. For example, with my kids, we used to pick a show, or we used to go to that restaurant we really loved, and it was just our moment, the three of us. When they were younger, it's about picking, what tradition you'd like to start, and picking new way to do Christmas, to celebrate Christmas with them, with your child. I think it's really important to have those new traditions, new habits, that they look forward to them as well, for the next Christmas. And even if it's not on Christmas Day, okay, maybe it's Boxing Day or the day after, but it's about what are we going to do that day. And every year we can repeat that, because children love repetition, don't they? They love knowing what's going to happen.
I just wanted to point out as well, Audrey, that there may be many listeners today listening to us thinking, oh, it's easy for you to say, you don't know, my ex-partner is so unreasonable, so horrible, and that is completely understandable. And what we've discussed today is not sort of across the board. I think it's important to just recognize and reach out to those people who are probably feeling that today and saying, it's very, very easy for you to sit there and say this. I've endured all this angst, all this abuse, all this nastiness, and he or she wants everything, and I'm just supposed to roll over and just make it say it's okay. No, that's not the case at all, and that's why there is the court process there, particularly for those situations. And by all means, don't suffer in silence. You need to think of yourself as well, and your own well-being. But I just thought I'd sort of flag that as well. because
Totally.
it's every situation is different for everybody.
I think we see so many of those situations, unfortunately, in both our practice. And I think, as you mentioned, self-care, can you control? It's important to understand what you can control, either through your solicitor, through the court, etc. You have means to fight, but what can you control at this moment and what you can't control? You can't change your ex. You won't be able to control how he reacts to those situations. And that's how I had my clients deal with that. Is like, what can you control now? How can you take care of yourself and deal with those emotions, so you don't, on top of that, destroy yourself even more and feel even worse than you were feeling. So it's really about, if you don't have your children, what can you do now? So it's about planning ahead also, and planning some, I don't know, a bit pampering, meeting a friend, making phone calls. I don't know, anything. I find that when I was alone, that's something I should have done, really, is planning more, reaching out to people, because people are happy to help. And in those situations, I'm sure maybe there's even just a neighbor, a friend, someone who will be happy to be there for you, even if it's an hour for a coffee or something. So don't stay alone at home. I feel like try to reach out, because people want to help, and you won't be bother. I think it's whoever that is, you can ring the neighbor. I don't know. I know it's maybe hard, but it's also about daring doing it.
I was going to say that as well, actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, Audrey, but sometimes as well, it's realizing that your own company can be quite good company as well, and going out and doing something for yourself that you potentially were restricted for in the past. Go and see a theatre production on your own. It's okay. It's, again, going back to feeling potentially liberating. Go and have a walk around Green Park or St James's Park and just absorb the environment around you, or go for a coffee and people watch and just engaging with yourself. That can be quite daunting, but once you've got there and realized that actually your own company can be good company as well, and there is that sense of freedom. I can do what I want to do. I don't have to account to anybody anymore. I don't have to ask for permission. I'm free. I can do what I want to do, go wherever I want to go. I mean, there is that as well, which, yes, I completely agree with you. That's so many people that you're probably unaware of who will be there for you and support you, and you may need that. But there's no harm in sort of venturing into the territory of your own company. I'm not saying sit at home and wallow and cry, and which that can be quite scary. But try getting out there. Get on the bus and be free. Go and wherever it takes you. And there's so many things to do around you that you're probably not aware of.
That's so true, Vas. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's about what couldn't you do when you were married, and what can you do now? What have you always wanted to do and that you can finally start doing? It can be a course online. It can be learning. So you've got lots of YouTube videos on everything nowadays. You can learn something new. And even if it's just, pampering, watch a good movie on TV, go for a walk. It's about learning how to live, not being lonely, but living alone on your own. It can also be good, and learning to like yourself again.
Yes.
And understand your needs. And because you can answer to your needs, you don't need someone else for that. You can be the one giving yourself what you need. And I think some people, when you divorce, you may have low self-esteem, low confidence, and you may feel like you'll never be able to recover. But it takes time, but you will get there. And it's about trusting the process as well, of that, yes, I'm going through this stage where I'm not feeling so good and I'm really sad and miserable, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And with the right help, with the right mindset, I can get through this and feel actually much better on the other side.
Yeah. And it can, I think the key word for me today is liberating.
Yes.
You know, and that's only because the feedback that I've had from many clients who have come to me and have felt so lost at the beginning and so daunted by everything and so frightened. And you've obviously, it's natural, you know, legal costs, court proceedings, all this doom and gloom that sort of a cloud over these type of proceedings, this process. But come out of it thinking, wow, I'm free.
Like those divorce parties, you know.
Yes, they do. Yes, that's becoming quite popular.
Yes.
I've had a few clients that have got their decree absolute and they've said their final order, as it's now known, and they say, right, I'm going to go and I've got my girlfriends and we're going to go and have a party. They've even had parties with their ex-husbands. So they both feel that they're in a much better place and have a better relationship.
Yeah.
I've had that experience with many clients as well, that, you know, they've been in an unhappy, not necessarily abusive, but an unhappy relationship. And once they've gone through the process, they're actually they get on a lot better. And, you know, it's really satisfying to see when there's a positive outcome at the end. But it's taking time.
It's taking time to get over those feelings, as I mentioned, of guilt or sadness, etc. But I remember I loved it so much. I mean, I love my children. Of course, I love them. But when I was alone, it was really good. I felt like, whoa, you know, because when you raise children and you work and it's really hard, then you don't have free time. And a weekend, you still do chores. But when you have a day or two totally free, well, you can catch up on anything you want, of course, chores like, but also just enjoy this time, which is like, whoa, yes, it's daunting to start with, isn't it? You don't know what to put in it in this free time, but I think eventually it's about appreciating that, and so that's a very good point.
I think it all comes down to being happy, doesn't it? And finding what makes you happy.
Yes.
That's what's important.
Yes, it's about visualizing what the future you want to build and how you want to feel about it. What do you want in your life? What do you don't want anymore? Maybe that's all you know. You don't know what you want, because often we're lost. And but you can find out. You can find out. You can work it out and understand what are your values. What do you want in your life? Sometimes just thinking about it, having someone next to you just listening is enough for you to realize, okay, that's how what I want to do now. You may want to change job, you may want so many things sometimes people do after they get divorced, change career, or it's amazing what you can do. I think
the moral of the story, Audrey, it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
It's not all doom and gloom, and we're here to help the doom and gloom. Yes,
indeed, yes.
That's what it is. It's about having happy ending as much as possible, you know. Yes. Well, I think we've done a good tour of the of the first steps of getting a divorce. So maybe if we just end on what is a good divorce, and for you, Vas, what would be a good divorce?
I think a good divorce is understanding that it's over, and whatever settlements reached, whatever the end is, it may not necessarily always be what you wanted, what was on the table for you, but that closure, that conclusion, and, you know, knowing now that you can step into your new chapter and sort of rebuilding your life, or not necessarily having to rebuild it. You may be in such a great place that you're just ready to jump into your new life. But for me, it's always satisfying to know that it's over, and getting to that end point as cost effectively, because that has to be taken into account as well, because this cost can spiral out of control, and just making sure at all times that your costs are proportionate. Proportionality is so important. But just getting to that end point as swiftly as possible, because until you get to that end, there is a cloud over you, and there are restrictions, whether it's a happy divorce or an acrimonious divorce. There is that restriction, I think, of not being able to start your new chapter. So, you know, I always just say to clients, get there as cost effectively, as quickly as possible, fight for what's right, fight for what's fair and reasonable, cut out unnecessary and superfluous issues. It's not worth it. Your mental health will suffer for it. Your pockets, your purse strings will suffer for it as well. I suppose that's the resolution member in me. So I'm a member of Resolution. And for those who don't know what Resolution are, it's an organisation that solicitors join to become a member of, and they promote dealing things in a harmonious, amicable, non-confrontational way. And the theory behind that is that you get to the end point cost effectively and as amicably and stress-free as possible. So I think, yeah, that's my vision of a happy ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you summarize it well, Vas. And thank you for mentioning Resolution, which is very important organization, and for that happy ending, for that good divorce, financially cost effective, but also everything around it, the negotiation, etc. Because you won't, for the divorce coach point of view, moving on, you need to have closure, and otherwise it's really hard if you're still in the acrimony. So it's about having that closure, and as the word you mentioned before, being liberated, really.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yes.
Oh, that's behind me. Finally, the weight on your shoulders, is probably gone, and you feel so much lighter. I mean, that's a word my client use a lot, is lighter.
Yeah.
Because it's a big weight, isn't it? All those decisions you need to make regarding the children, the finance, with maybe the house, family house. There are so many tough decisions. And once we had them get through those decisions and finally settle an agreement for the divorce, there's no more decisions to make. For now, you can just relax and enjoy that moment. So
just being in that process, whether it's just, it's just being in that process and have that over you, it's time consuming and very draining at times. So once that's over, your focus shifts onto more positive and exciting, hopefully exciting chapters ahead.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say is about what image you're going to show your children, if you have children, of conflict resolution, or not agreeing with mom and dad. And it's about how we can work through that, so that it's the most respectful and amicable way as possible, because that's what you want to show them. I mean, they want to have that image of their parents who can be respectful, who can be amicable. And it's really hard. I mean, for me, I had to swallow a lot, but it was not the important things. It was just maybe my views or how I viewed parenting, and which was different from my ex-husband. So it wasn't about vital issues. I thought I can let it go. And yes, we have lots of things we don't agree, and after the divorce, but at least the divorce is done and over with, and I can focus on rebuilding a relationship with my children, and rebuilding a new life for me. And that's all that matters. And yes, they have different education in their house, in his house, and not in my house. But at the end, they take it all in. And I think that's what matters, is that it's even richer for them to see two different things.
But they would have had that whether you're together or you're separated. I think that's where people don't realize that, the beliefs of people are still there, whether you're together or separate. The only difference is that when you're together, you're battling in front of the children, whereas when you're separated, you don't really see what goes on. They go over to dad or go over to mum, and it's exactly what would have happened in the house, but it's out of sight, out of mind. And out of conflict as well, because you don't really have that control anymore. Whereas when it's happening in your house, you will argue, you will create conflict there, and the children will witness that. So it goes back to, you can't change somebody. So out of sight, out of mind, perhaps, I don't know, works for some, not for others, who knows.
I love that, Vas. It's exactly that. It would have happened, but with conflict, because we were arguing about it, for example, in my situation. So may as well be more peaceful for the children. Yes. I think we covered a lot today in this webinar, but it's also about giving you some food for thoughts if you're thinking of starting the process the next few weeks or after Christmas, and what to think about, what could it look like as well, what are the first steps, and then we here, Vas is here for you after when you want to start the process, and I'm here even before if you still need to make some decisions or manage your emotions during those holidays or before Christmas. There's a podcast you can listen to as well on the #divorce about the holidays. There's Vas podcast we recorded a few months ago around co-parenting, and we're going to record a new episode soon with Vas in February. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. But you have lots of tools, you have lots of material you can listen to during the holidays, but of course we're here if you need to reach out before January to start this process, or at least ask some questions and plan ahead for January.
Thank you, Audrey. That's perfectly summarized. Great working with you as always.
Thank you so much, Vas. It was a pleasure doing this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. Bye-bye.
Bye.